during this section, you are going to create a real-time game. And even when it is going to be a simple game, it is going to allow you to explore under different ways to, well, create real-time applications. And this game is basically a roulette. You are showing a roulette rolling, and then the user can select on real time a number for that roulette, and then it is going to be applied to a random number after a defined quantity of seconds. The trick here to get this on real time is that all the users that are participating in this game are going to see the same result, the same remaining time, and every one of them can win or lose depending on the result. So during this class, we are going to create the visual component, of course, basically the view. We need to start with a web route, and then we are going to use a view route as well. So this is going to be on game, and we are going to use game.show. It means we are going to use a show view in the game subfolder. Then this is going to be game show. Of course, you can use the name that you prefer. And after that, once we have the root, well, we just need to create it. And again, it is going to be on resources, views, and we are going to duplicate the show all one. And we are going to put that in game. And the name is just show. Once you have this, so this is not going to be for users, of course, this is going to be for the game. And in the body, so we are going to add some things. And in the scripts, we are going to have some different scripts, so it's good to keep one of them. And additionally, as it is a visual game, this is going to be very styled, let's say, and we are going to need some custom styles. So let's to add now a push to the style stack. Let's to finish the push, and we are going to have a style tag here, and later we are going to add the styles here, of course. So in the card body, we are going to put, of course, the contents of the game. So let's to put everything on the center. So we are going to have a div with text center, and inside we are going to have the image of the roulette. So we have an image tag here, and the source is going to come from our assets in the public folder. So we are going to use the asset helper, and the path is going to be emg/circle.png. Of course, we don't have this image, we need to create it, and in fact, I already have that file. So let's go to public, rebuild the location, and once we are there, so we just need to create an emg folder and put the image there. Don't worry, you are going to be able to download this image from the code of the course in the repository, and of course as a resource of this single class in the platform. Now, once we have the image, so let's to add an ID because we need to manipulate this image from the JavaScript later. So circle is going to be the ID, and we can eventually have a class that we are going to apply later just to show you a little way to work with this. Finally, we just need to specify some height and a width for this image. So let's just start with the height, which is going to be 250 pixels, and the same for the width. Then just below the image, we are going to have a paragraph with an ID, which is going to be winner. And yes, this paragraph is going to show the winner number, the number that was randomly generated for the result, and from which is going to depend if the user wins or not. So by default, this element is going to be hidden because we are going to show the results only after the number is generated, not before. And this is going to be a big number, so let's use display 1. Remember, all of this is from Bootstrap, and it is going to be hidden, so we are going to use display none. And finally, we are going to establish a color for this using text primary. Once we have this, so let's add a separator, and after this we are going to add again a text center div. So let's copy this, we have this there, and inside we are going to put the element where the user can select the bit, basically a number between 1 and 12. So let's put a label, there we have. Let's add some components or basically styles for this. So this is going to be in bold, font weight bold, and we are going to add a size for the text, which is going to be H5. So this is the bit of the user. Then this is going to be a select, and remember the select is going to have a default option, which is going to be selected, of course, because it's the default one, and this is going to be not in, which means the user doesn't have a selected number, is not going to make any bet. And then we are going to use a for each with a range from 1 to 12, as I said previously, and this is going to be basically the number in the option. So this is going to be an option as well, of course. This is not selected now, and basically the visual value is going to be the number that we are using there. So the user is going to be able to select from 1 to 12 as an option. Then we are going to add an horizontal separator again, but inside this same div, we are going to add the elements to show the remaining time. So we are going to add a paragraph to show what exactly is this. Let's add some styles. Basically, we are going to use the same styles of the tag. So let's put this. And then, so we are going to have the remaining type. It means the timer. So let's use an ID because we need to establish the value constantly of this. We are going to have a class, which is going to be H5 to preserve the same size of the text, but we are going to show that as a danger text. It means it is going to appear on red. The default value of this text, because it's going to be visible, is just waiting to start. Then we are going to add an additional horizontal separator again. And finally, we have the result. So let's add an ID, which is going to be result in the paragraph. And we are going to show this in the bigger one element, which is going to be an H1. And the result is going to be you win or you lose. So let's keep this like this. Of course, we are going to see some elements. So let's go now to our browser. Remember, in the local IP address, let's go to game. And once we are there, we should be able to see this, but clearly I have a little issue in the syntax, which is exactly here. Of course, I have this duplicated. Let's fix that and go to refresh again. And there we have. The user has the bit, and we need to add some styles to this element to show this better, and some custom styles to allow this element to rotate. So let's start with this select, adding just some class here. This is going to be custom select. And additionally, we are going to allow an automatic size for this column. We're using column auto. Now, in the top, in the custom styles, we are going to have a keyframes to create a transformation for the rotation. So we are going to call this rotate. And this is going to start from one single rotation to another rotation, of course. So the start is going to be a transformation, which is going to be rotate from 0 degrees and to 360 degrees. Once we have this, we just need to specify an element. We are going to call this, for example, refresh, to apply to the image, basically a class, and this is going to use that specific animation. So we are going to say the rotate animation is going to be used here every 1.5 seconds, and this is going to be linear. It means the speed of this is not going to change and is going to be infinite. So if we apply this refresh class to the image, it should be rotating. So let's go here and refresh. We should be able to see this rotating. You can see how the styles of the select changed, but it is not working. So let's verify the style. This is refresh. And yes, of course, this should be transformed clearly. And let's go to check it again. So there you are. This is refreshing every time, rotating basically, but we are going to add this class only when the game is under execution. By default, this is going to be just stopped and in the quiet position. So that's all. Those are the visual components, and now it is time to create the events to make this working, create the command, and make this work on real time for every single user that is connected. Let's see how it is going to work in the following classes with the events mainly. See you there. So during this class, you are going to create 2 single events that are going to be broadcasted on real time to make this game to work. But For that, I'm going to try to show you how the game is going to be executed. So once the user starts the game, or basically the users get access to the game, it is going to show this element, this image rotating, and the remaining time is going to be decreasing. For example, from 10 seconds, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, etc. And in that time, the user can select any of those numbers, and when the time is out, so the system is going to broadcast an event with a randomly generated number between 1 and 12. So if the number match, well, the user wins, but if not, well, the user loses. That is basically the logic and the dynamic of this game. So that means that we need to broadcast two different events. One for the remaining time, which is going to be broadcasted second after second until 0. And once the timer is out, we are going to broadcast another event with that number generated, a number generated randomly. So let's create those events. Basically, we can duplicate any of the events that we have. Let's use, for example, the user session changed. And we are going to start with the first one, which is going to be remaining time changed. Let's press enter. So we just need to change the name of the class. We don't need app type. We just need, in this case, the time that we have remaining. So this is going to be time. We don't need again the type. And this type of message, we are going to have time. Then we are going to use a public channel. So be sure to import the definition here because anyone can connect to our game. And the channel of this is going to be called game, of course. Then once every single user is connected, so we can broadcast this event second after second, transmitting the time that we have remaining before the execution of the bet and the generation of the random number. So then we just need to duplicate this and generate our new event, and we are going to call this winner number generated. Let's put this. Now this is going to be winner number generated, and instead of time, we are going to have number. We are going to broadcast on real time the number that we generated randomly. And we are going to use the same channel, which is public, with the same name, which is game. So once again, remaining time change is going to be broadcasted from a command that we are going to create in the following class, second by second, showing that we have changed the remaining time from 10 to 9, 8, 7, 6, etc. And once this time goes to 0, so we are going to generate a random number and broadcast on real time that number, and lets to know if the user wins or loses depending on the bet. Remember, all of this is going to work on real time, of course, and the user can get the feedback on real time of the result that he has. At this point, we have the events that we need to coordinate, but we need the coordinator, and we're going to do that using a custom command that we are going to create in the following class. So, see you there. So you have the events to dispatch, and basically you are going to broadcast the remaining time and the randomly generated number after the remaining time goes to 0. But how are you going to coordinate that? Because you need to be sure to set the remaining time event second after second, and once you go to 0, broadcast the new event with the randomly generated number, and after that start this remaining time counting again. So the best option for this, I think, should be a command from Laravel, and fortunately for you, you are going to be able to create commands of Laravel very easy as usual with Laravel. So we can use PHP Artisan for this, and you can use the make command. And we are going to create a command which is going to be game executor. The game executor is going, well, to execute the game. So we need to go to app, console, commands, and there you have your command. So the signature is basically the way as you are going to call this command from PHP Artisan. So let's use something like game execute. we have an optional description. Let's say something like start executing the game. And finally, we have a constructor. We don't need to do nothing there. And the best part is the handle. In the handle, we are going to say what to do with this command once it is executed. So we are going to do this in an endless loop. So while true, we are going to execute and broadcast second after second our remaining time event. So let's start with that broadcast. We are going to send a new instance of remaining time changed. And for that, let's use a new attribute for this class, for this command, which is going to be the timer. So let's add this. This can be private time. And we are going to start this for 15 by default. For example, you can use any other number, 13, 16, but as bigger is the number, you probably will need to wait more time from one execution to another. So let's keep that in 15, and we are going to use that exact same value. So this time, then we need to use or basically concatenate the time unit, which is going to be seconds. So this is going to be 15s, which means 15 seconds, then 10 seconds, etc. Once we broadcast this, we need to reduce the counter. And after that, we need to sleep this thread from 1 second. So this is going to be 15, 14, 13, etc. second exactly after exactly another second. Now, if this counter goes to 0, we need to do something different. In this case, we have first stop the counter and let's say put the default value of waiting to start. So this time is going to be equals to a string waiting to start. This is basically the same default value that we established for our counter in our view. Remember, on resources, views, game, we have the show and the default value is waiting to start. So we are going to use this exact value. So at the value of the time change, so we need to broadcast the same event again with this new specific value. But this time we are not going to append the s because it will say waiting to starts. And we don't want that. So we just need to remove the s from there. Now, once we have this, well, we need to broadcast a new event, and that event is for the random number. So we are going to generate the winner number. And as I said, we just need to generate that randomly, and we can use empty run from PHP. And remember, this must be a number between 1 and 12. So once the number has been generated, we are going to give to the user an additional time before the game starts again. Let's say 5 seconds. So we are going to sleep this command, this thread for 5 seconds before to start the game again. And to start the game again, we just need to establish a new value for the time. So we are going to start from scratch, which is going to be 15. So we have this time is going to be equals to 15, the exact same value that we used here to initialize this attribute. So if everything is okay, we can be allowed to debug this. So let's go to our events, remaining time changed, and debug the value. Remember, I will alt friend lock debug, and we can pass there the time. Remember to add the backslash at the beginning of this line to avoid importing this definition because this is just temporal. And let's do exactly the same in the winner number generated. So let's go to broadcast on and to debug, not in this case the time, but the number. So if everything is okay, we should be able to go to our command prompt, execute PHP artisan, and you can see how we have a new group of commands called game, and we have game execute inside there. So let's use this with PHP artisan, of course. But it looks like we have an error. Basically, I made a mistake here, and of course, I completely missed to import the definition of the event. So let's go back to the game executor, and we need to import the definition of remaining time changed, and the same for winner number generated. you can see all of them coming from here, from our app events folder. So if we save and go back to our command prompt and try again, let's do it, you can see how it is starting. And if we go to our log, so let's go to storage, logs, log, and we go to the bottom, you have here the execution flow, 15, 14, 13, 10, 9, 8, 7. And we go again to this file, we can see how this goes to 1 second, and once it goes to 0, it changed to waiting to start, generated a new number, which is 11. And if we try to go back again, you can see at the bottom again, you have the flow started again. Once the random number is generated, so we start the remaining count time again. So at this point, you have your game working perfectly, and you are broadcasting the events on real time. And once again, the only thing that we have to do is go to our view and listen for that events and interact with our user interface and basically with our users on real time, showing the results on the view. So let's go to do that in the following class. This is the moment to see all of our game working on real time. We have all the components on the backend, we have the main view, but now it is time to bring to life this view to show to the user on real time once the time change and once the random number is generated, and to communicate if he wins or loses. Let's just start with that using our JavaScript template. So let's go there to our views, resources views, game, there we have show, and remember we added a stack for scripts. So we are going to start creating the elements for the circle, the timer, the winner number, the bet element for the user, and the result, because we are going to interact with all of them during this game. So let's just start with the circle one. And once again, we are going to use the ID. So we are going to obtain from the document the element by ID. The ID of this element is just circle. You can check this here. Circle for the image, and remember we are just going to start rotating the image or not depending on the time on the game. So then we are going to have the timer element. After that we are going to have the winner element. Then we have the bet, and finally, but not less important, we have the result. So you can check all of those elements. We have the circle, then we have the timer, you can see this here, then we have the winner, this here, and the bet, and the same of course for the result. Now, in fact, I completely missed to add the bet element, so let's put that ID on the select. So this is bet because we need to determine which option the user selected to compare with the random number generated on the event. So once we have that ID, we need to start with label echo. So let's use an instance of echo in the public channel, which is called the game. And then after that, we have to listen to the different events. Remaining time change. In fact, I probably have a typo here. This is remaining. And once we have this, so again, we just need to execute an action which is going to receive an event with the information, in this case, the time that we have remaining. And then similarly, we are going to listen to winner number generated event. So let's begin with the remaining time, because at this point, we just need to establish the value of the timer 1 by 1 second after second, and to keep our image rotating because the game is in execution. The roulette is going and rotating before to finish with a random number. So let's take the timer element to establish the inner text, which is going to be equals to the time that we received on the event. Then we have the circle element, and we're going to be sure to add in the class list an element with the refresh style that we defined previously. So we are just adding the refresh just in case this is not there. And Finally, we need to be sure to hide the winner number because take into consideration that the number has been generated previously in a previous execution of the game. The game is executing time after time after time. So maybe probably before this we have the random number generated there. So we need to hide that again. And remember that can be done using this same syntax, but of course instead of the circle element we are going to use the winner element. And the winner element, we are going to add the display none class to this. Then, following this same logic, we may have the result of this, if the user win or the user lost. So, we need to verify this as well. We need to remove the contents of the result using the result element. So, we are going to use the inner text equals to just empty. And later, we are going to use the class list as here, but instead of adding, we are going to remove, if it exists, the class that may have the text success or the text danger, because it is going to be success if the users win, or it's going to be danger if the user lost. So let's to remove text success, and the same for text danger. So at this point, it is going to work for the counter, and now let's to do it once the number is generated, the random number, and you may have an idea because we need to establish so the value of this element is going to be success or danger, the value is going to be the winner number generated, etc. So you maybe have an idea of this. First, we need to stop the roulette to routing, so we can do basically the same on this, but instead of add, we need to remove the refresh class, and then let's to create a variable with the winner number, which is going to be equals to the number that we receive on the event. So, in the winner element, we are going to establish the inner text, which is going to be equals to that value. And we need to remove the class of display none because we need to show that element. So this is the winner element as usual here. And we need to remove the display none. Once we have this, so we need to add the condition to be sure of this, but the condition depends of the user selection, so we need to be sure to obtain the bet of the user. So this is going to be equals to bet element. The bet element is basically an array with the elements that the user has the possibility to select, and from this element we are going to select only the selected one. So we are going to obtain the selected index, and we are going to obtain the inner text from this. Once we have the number, we can add the condition that if the bet is exactly the same as the winner number, so we are going to do something. In case of not, we are going to do a different thing. So in this case, we need to use the result element, put the inner text saying you win because the number match. And for this same element, we are going to add a class which is going to be text success. So we are going to do basically this, but instead of remove, we are going to add. And in the case of it doesn't match, it means that the user lost, so you lose, and this is going to be text danger. So be sure to start the game. So let's open the command prompt, use PHP artisan game execute. And if everything is okay, we should be able to come back here and refresh. And you can see how it is rotating and second after second transmitting the value of the remaining time. Now we can select a value, let's say for example 4. And definitely something is not well. So let's verify. And of course this is the deal because this is saying winner number generated event, but that should not be there. So once we refresh this, let's verify again. Let's go here, refresh, select a number. You can see how the game is working in real time, even after refreshing, of course. And there you have. In fact, we were very lucky, so we win. That's all. You can get this game executing time after time, second after second, and it is going to work exactly the same while the command is under execution. If you go and stop the command pressing Ctrl+C, for example, so you are going to see how the game is going to stop suddenly. In this case, you can see this is another execution, but if I stop the command, you can see that the time is not getting refreshed second after second. If I start the game again, so you can see this working, and of course, this is going to work on several windows at the same time. Doesn't matter if this is the same session or not. You can see this here. I can even open an incognito session, and this is going to work exactly the same for all of them. You can see how it is working on real time for every single user at that specific moment. So that's all. You have completely created a real-time game which is working perfectly good for all the users on real time, and this is going to be synchronized by a command that is being executed behind the scenes for you. So you learned about commands and you learned about the real-time application using a very interesting game. Now, let's go to the following section to start exploring another approaches of real-time applications, allowing us to explore the last kind of channel that we need, which is the presence channels that we are going to see in the following sections. See you there.